Welcome back to the Road to Shredded. For workout number 5, we are maxing out on the behind the neck pull-up. By far, the most badass variation around. Now the major benefit is that it's insanely difficult given the 100% vertical angle. The only way your head can clear the bar is by leaning forward. So it is the opposite of leaning back, trying to turn this into an inverted row hybrid. And therefore, the difficulty is off the charts. As you will see, my peak weight is exactly 1 plate less than my all-time best PR, which I had recently hit. So you know for a fact that this is the real deal. So I get 3 plates. You can say the range of motion was slightly less than the 2.5 set, but I still think it was good enough. By the way, that was my first time maxing out on behind the neck, so I was quite pleased with the weight. Plus it allows me to set the correct percentages if that is what I want to do. Generally, I recommend 70 to 80% for your back downs based off your total load. So that includes the external load and your body weight. My case, I didn't really calculate that. I just knew that a plate would be sufficient using proper technique. So that includes the dead hang, and I am pulling quite high. You can see that the upper traps are almost touching the bar. So in a way, you can say it is the complementary motion to chest to bar pull-ups. Now you don't have to pull this high. The minimum is that your head touches the bar, but also realize that grip width makes a difference. So here it is a wide grip, not quite super wide. So the arms are still angled outwards, but it's not collar to collar. So it makes it a bit easier to get more range of motion. Next, we move on to L-sit rope pull-ups. Not only am I developing gorilla forearms, but I can also rotate the rope. So there's that supination action. So I'm getting more biceps, but it's not restrictive. So it's easy on the joints. This is how you minimize golfer's elbow. You have to rotate variations. Did you honestly think for a second that I was only going to do straight bar chins for the entirety of this cut, especially if I'm maxing out twice a week? Come on. There's going to be high exercise rotation. Even more important, now that I'm in a calorie deficit, recovery needs to be perfect. So this pull-up fully lengthens the lower lats, given the spinal flexion. When you have that L-sit formation, or in this case, even a V, since the feet are so high, the stretch is unmatched. So body weight is more than enough. And I find that the rope is harder than rings. So you're hitting the abs, grip, and lats at the same time. Talk about bang for your buck. Now, if you can't do these, I'd recommend knees up or rack chins, which you will see in upcoming sessions. For the third and final back compound, we are tripling down on vertical pulls. Enter the one arm ghetto pull down. As you can see, it is quite similar to an iliac pull down, although I don't see anything wrong with bringing your arms completely up to the top. Now, if you didn't want the extra traps, sure, you don't have to enter a dead hang, but I want the most stimulus, especially since there are no horizontal pulls. And it's not really all the way up to my ears. So by every account, it is lat bias. You can see the arm is coming inwards. There's some twisting effect going on. Basically, if you raise your arms up and then across, that stretches the lats better than if you're just pulling in one motion. This is why unilateral back training is so common in optimal circles. But the thing is, you don't have to stick to their specific exercises. If you understand the principles, then you can create whatever you want. And this is what I do at home. Now you might be asking, why would you not just set up a bench and do the same exercise? Wouldn't the chest support offer more stability? To that I would say, not really. I've tried both, you lift about the same, but the problem is you gotta weigh down the bench, and that is so incredibly annoying, and the fact that you have nothing to support the legs with, that I'd rather not do it. You know, you would need rear support by either using bands or wearing a seatbelt, which yes, I have seen some of these guys do at the gym, bringing their own custom setups. I am not doing that. This gets the job done. I am stretching the lats. I can lift heavy enough, has good carryover to my one arm chins. No, sometimes you just gotta keep it simple. So my lats were absolutely trash. Now, we're gonna get some more thickness in using isolation work with the chest expander. The horizontal pull-apart is my favorite accessory. Doing 7 springs for reps. It's crazy, when I first started off, I couldn't even budge 5 for 1 rep max. But now it's been 2 years of specializing with this device. A time-proven gem that is still somewhat underrated, even though I have increased its popularity alongside Golden Era Bookworm and Dante from Natty Life. So be sure to check out their channels because they name all the historical figures who used it. Definitely will do a more comprehensive job than me. What I do best is putting in the brutal effort, trying to get as strong as Fred Rollon in Reg Park, and I think I'm getting quite close, to be honest. You see the gains in the traps and rear delts. I didn't think they could be this big at this body weight, and even when I was shredded, I never lost my yoke. The only thing that shrinks is my neck, because if you don't isolate it, that is to be expected. But the upper traps and the deltoid separation, and yes, this will hit the rear and the side, this is my number one. So I do horizontal and vertical, going to failure. And by the way, I don't care that it's not lengthen biased. There's no study that's going to tell me that the chest expander is not optimal when it's been around for over 100 years and my gains blew up better than anything I've ever tried prior. Pull aparts hit different. Speaking of which, so do these one-arm barbell curls. Now you might be thinking, oh, I'm doing this to be unconventional, to be unique. No, in the arm wrestling world, this is a common exercise, and it's actually where I learned it from. You got thousands of Russians doing this on the daily with very heavy weights. They put me to complete shame. Now, the prerequisite is that you can at least curl 45 pounds, but even that, it's harder than the dumbbell equivalent, even with the same weight, because you have to stabilize the bar. Some would say that's a con for motor unit recruitment, but no, the challenge is that the bar wants to lean in one direction, so it's forcing you to supinate as hard as possible. And it is developing your side pressure strength, as well as bulletproofing the wrists. To me, that is a significant benefit, especially since I do everything with an underhand grip. I want my arms to be super strong, have no weak links. Some would even argue that this hits the tendons a bit harder. So I recommend grabbing onto the rack and leaning forward ever so slightly. You can even change your torso angle midway if you want more stretch or squeeze, just like the concentration curl. Lastly, we end with chain curls, which is not stretching your biceps at all, but it is very friendly on the tendons. And because we really went hard today with brutal pulling variations, really killing the biceps in their end range, I wanted something that was more mid to short and biased. So in this case, I clip on 2 chains. The biceps intensely contract, similar to a cable curl, except it's free weight operated. Now, the best way is actually doing normal barbell curls with chains on the side. But if you want something that is just perfectly lined up, that does not require dumbbells, still allows you to grind, put in high effort, all that, but does not strain the joints, this is the variation you want to do. So throw it in from time to time. At worst, it's 10 to 20% less effective than lower ranges. But I believe when your intensity and volume is sufficient, especially when you look at big picture thinking, you shouldn't have any problems. Plus, you're strengthening the top joint angles, which could help you in an arm wrestling context, or if you struggle at the top of a curl. You never know. So that's it for the workout. Here's some posing. Look how pumped my lats are. They're looking wide and the vein has kicked in. So it's fun seeing these day-to-day changes. When you're quite close to being shredded, in this case, max 10 pounds away, every week you look better. So let's keep training hard. Tomorrow, you're not gonna get a leg workout. I'm gonna take that day off in between. It's gonna be an infinite push-pull setup, focusing on what I care about.